Hi, I'm Teut WEIDEMANN. I'm a monetization and online game specialist, and part of my day-to-day job is actually to dissect other successful games and to answer the question of management, why the fuck is this more successful than we are? This basically, I try to answer that with that talk because that's basically dissecting World of Tanks. If you want to know who I am, simply Google, so I just skip the self-marketing stuff. And we just go into World of Tanks. If you don't know that product, World of Tanks is a team arena-based PvP game. So 2 teams, 15 people each try to fight it out. That's basically the whole game. You know that type of game, Counter-Strike basically made it really popular back like 15 years ago. So this is the same thing with tanks, but it's much slower. Some tanks only shoot once per minute. Some do a little bit faster, but it's like a Counter-Strike for old men. This is basically how I define World of Tanks. It's World War II, which is surprising because most publishers would have said, World War II doesn't work, nope, kill it. But they actually were pretty persistent. There are 5 different tank types in the game, which you can basically see as classes, like in Battlefield or any shooters. There's a slow-pace artillery, there's a tank destroyer, the really agile light tanks, which have scouting roles, there's a medium tank, heavy tanks, and they all play differently. So be careful, this is very role-dependent, and if you're frustrated because one tank doesn't work like the other, that might be your mistake, that you're actually playing a heavy tank as a medium, and vice versa. You can actually invite friends to play with you in the same match, but this is limited to 3 people, which is a really odd design decisions. I said, why? Socialization, it's online, invite 10 friends and play with them together, but they don't allow that. And I can answer basically that question later on when you basically are in my thinking. It's very progression-based, the whole game. You basically just play for experience and credits. The experience you use to unlock new tanks, and the credits you basically use to buy these tanks. And that's a really important point later on. Basically, the whole monetization relies on that thing. There's also coup progression, tank modification, some more detail I go into later. Interestingly, there's no player level. Usually, even Heyday has a player level. So every game nowadays which is free to play has a player level. They don't, which is an interesting decision. And at the end game, they have something called Clan Wars. This is still in beta, but it's a very interesting thing because this is actually the least talked feature, but it's one of the coolest they have. And they don't market it really well, but as soon as you're in World of Tanks, and you see that, it's a new world opening up. So this is some metrics I brought to you. These are actually from May last year. I couldn't get newer ones because somehow my service shut down who got me this. This is monthly unique visitors per month, so how many visitors they have on their website. That might not be accurate for client-based games. Remember, someone who plays the game never visits the website, so be careful with that number. But here you can see that in this month, they actually were really close in the Western Hemisphere, without Asia, to League of Legends. The traffic split is easy to find out. You can do that yourself. Just go to Google Trends and type in World of Tanks, and you see where the traffic comes from. You see that it's pretty much split between Russia and Europe, and it's very tiny in the US compared to the audience size. The reason is that for any free-to-play game made in Asia or in Europe, it's very, very hard to enter America. Don't ask me why. It's just, it's tough. There are not many people who can claim they have conquered America. So keep that in mind. This is from a really interesting site. Actually, the source is like on the throne. It's from worldoftanknews.com. They poll the player base and get all sorts of interesting data out of it. Data which I think wargaming don't want to reach the public, but they don't care. So you can actually see how many active users they have simply because they know the last game you played from calling the database. And that means they know how many monthly active users they have. Because they can poll all the players and crawl through them, they also know which players stopped. And they also know which players are new. And that leads to the next interesting thing is that how many registrations and how many active users they have. That's data you usually don't get for free. But here you just go to the website and you can have it. Wargaming doesn't like that, but they can't do anything against it because polling player base is part of any client-based game. But it's interesting that considering they have nearly 1 million new players per month, they actually just gain, like in Europe, 200,000 to 300,000 new actives per year. So their churn rate is really high, because it's a core game. But on the other hand, players who actually get hooked in the game, rarely leave. This is, their retention is really, really good. So their PR metrics, how I call it. So they release sorts of PR releases and say how cool they are. They are, but we have to always take that as a grain of salt. So they said, World of Tanks ends the year with 45 million players. That was like last year. And what they really mean is not players, they mean registered users. And they corrected this when they hit 60 million. They actually said 60 million registered players. But this is basically just a PR marketing stunt. It shows how good their marketing is, but it doesn't say how many users are left and playing, right? So you can basically negate that. But nevertheless, I need that number. They also tell you how many concurrent users they have, which they are proud of because they're in the Guinness Book of Records with this. And they said that World of Tanks monthly revenue hitting double-digit millions. So double-digit millions, the lowest number I can think of is 10 million. So they make between 10 and 99 million, right? This is like a vast range. So I want to find out how much that exactly is, and I can actually calculate that by just knowing these numbers, and I show you how. Social network numbers, they have nearly 1 million on Facebook. They have 1.5 million on vKontakte because they're a Russian company, and in Russia, Facebook is nothing. It's actually vKontakte there, and so on. So what we do is very easy, right? This thing has a laser. Yes. So 60 million players, they said, is registration, so we just ignore that number. The more interesting number is actually this one, 1.1 million peak concurrent users. This is like peak, right? So average is a little bit lower. But there's a kind of rule of thumb you can apply. It's a rule of thumb, very rough estimation. This is not science, right? This is just a number I found out by having so many different game numbers in my head that usually you can take the PCU times 4 to 5 and you have the number of monthly active users. Usually you can do that. There are exceptions, many exceptions to the rule, but nevertheless for this game, there is. So that means they have 4 to 5 million monthly active users, and they claim a 25% conversion rate. This is the reason why I actually try to analyze World of Tanks. 25% conversion rate, who has more than 10% conversion rate in his game? Hands up. Come on. Who has less than 10%? Most of you, see? Like most mobile games are like 3%, and you're really happy. And they said, no, 25%. See, you're doing something wrong. They do something right. So I want to see what the fuck. I want to copy paste their system. So when you have this 4 to 5 million monthly active users, and this number would be right, 25%, that means they have roughly 1 million pairs every month. 1 million pairs times an estimated RPPU of 35 euro. Who does not know what RPPU is? Anyone? I can explain. Okay, some. RPPU is the average revenue per paying user. So how much does a payer on average pay every month? This is his number. And I use 35 because if I would use 25, that's like the bare minimum you need to survive. You need actually much higher. I can explain you later on why that is, but 35 is a rough estimate on Western good RPPUs you can take. And if we take this 1 million payers times 35, we actually go somewhere between 30 and 45 million revenue, which is the double-digit revenue they said, and it's actually $500 million a year. Now you know why Wargaming throws these crazy parties, because they can afford it. But anyhow, this is just one rough calculation, so I have to find proof on another calculation, and that's actually thanks to Superdata Research. Superdata Research released that number based on their research, so that World of Tanks ARPU is 750, while League of Legends is 122. ARPU is the average revenue per user. So if you take all the money you do and divide that by the number of active users you have your ARPU. World of Tanks is sky high. Most of you guys have an ARPU less than $3. If you have more than one, you can say, yippee. If you have less than one, you're like, back to work. But if I take this, 758 times the 4 to 5 million monthly active users I have, again, I have a similar figure than before. Here, 31 to 45, here, 30 to 38. So we can say that from 2 different calculations, I basically found out how much money they do. And if you go to Victor, who is the CEO, and say, hey, Teut said you're doing 30 to 40 million a month. And he's kind of then blushing and says, yeah, it's a little bit more. Well, because it's increasing. But on the other hand, this calculation is pretty much on the spot. So let's do a really quick game overview, because this is the foundation you need to actually understand why this monetization works. What is World of Tanks about? How does it work internally? The first thing is that it's, this is the main game loop, right? You have a tank, you service it, you put ammunition in, crew in, you modify it a little bit, then you go into a match, you win or lose, and from the match you get experience and credits out of it. You basically grind experience and credits by winning or losing matches against other players. And this is like the main game loop, and you do that every day. I have 15,000 matches. Who has more? Anyone? 15,000 matches? Is there a World of Tank players here who are really good? Like 3 tier 10s and so on? Anyone? Oh, that's one, two. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Oh, he's from Wargaming. He's cheating. Okay, yeah, say hello to Victor. So basically, this is the main progression loop. But their whole game is progression. So we take that loop and actually multiply it. So what they did is that this is my main progression, and I get enough experience to unlock the next tank, and then I buy the next tank, and I can repeat that, basically, to unlock and buy the next tank. And the whole game is divided into tiers. Tiers is, tier 1 is worse than tier 2, tier 10 is the biggest, badass tanks, tier 5 is, worse. So you always want the next best big tank. And once you have a tier 10, you say, yeah, I won. Well, no, you don't, because you just have one of the 5 classes, remember? So you might have a tier 10 medium tank, but you really want that tier 10 heavy tank. And then you have to start from scratch in tier 1 to actually go down the progression line, because this is how the progression looks like. It's a little bit dark, but I zoom in. Okay, see, I cheated. I knew it was too dark. So you see one tank here, and if I level that up, I basically can buy this or this tank. So it's a progression-based tree you can walk through the game. And when you walk through this, basically through this tree, and you want to walk here, you have to basically go back here and walk through there. And the currency you pay that for is experience. With experience, you unlock the tanks. With credits, you buy the tanks. So it's very much a progression-based thing. And this here is just the German tech tree. There are like 6 nationalities, now there's a new one, Japanese, in the game. So if you want to have all German tanks, you play a long time, or you pay a lot. There's a medal owning all German tanks. I have that. So you know how much I play this game, right? Do you have that medal? No, he doesn't. He's a shy wargaming guy. He's nice. Okay, so basically, imagine this times 5. You know how many tanks. I have like 300 something tanks in there, so you cannot own everything. You have to be picky and spend your experience very wisely. So basically, experience becomes a currency. You see here is the price you have to pay, 1.3 million credits. This is like 30 matches. This is 77,500 credits you have to experience. You have to pay to unlock the Ferdinand, this tank, which is a tier 8. Later on in tier 10, you have like 250,000 experience you have to pay in order to unlock it. So the costs basically go exponentially high. So you grind basically more for the higher tier tanks. Inside the tank, again, there are various modules you can fit on it. A tank which you just bought is not really good enough in its tier. You have to fit it with all the advanced weaponry you can find, which are specific to that tank. Again, these things cost experience to unlock, credits to buy. It's the same system, it's just another grind inside the tank. If you replace tank with weapons and the classes with battlefield classes, it's the same system. If you play Battlefield 3 or 4, you have a soldier, you have a gun you unlock, and inside the gun you unlock modules. It's the same system basically, just with tanks. Then inside the tank you have crew. The crew itself, they cost money, you have to put them inside. They level up, they gain specific skills and perks, and to retrain them to a new tank costs money as well, so the whole thing is a money thing. And a really good experienced crew is worth a lot, because they basically modify the abilities of your tank. So these are some of the perks you can basically get. It's a kind of mini RPG inside the tank. You basically don't care who the crew is, you just care about the skill sets they have. And these skill sets take a long, long time to develop. But this is like a side grind inside the game itself. Because you basically take the most experienced crew to the higher tanks. Inside the tank itself, so when you click on the tank, you can service it, so you can put in consumables. The consumables you can use inside a battle and they're gone. They cost credits or gold, which is their primary currency. And here you have various ammunition, different ammunition types, so you have to know which ammunition to use on which tank. And one of the ammunition is called gold ammo, because you can buy it for money. You can also buy it for credits, but it's really expensive. So whenever you fire a gold round, and the other guy has an add-on which shows you're firing a gold round, you should look at the chat. Gold noob. You pay for this game, you suck. This is normal. I get this all the time because I exclusively only shoot gold ammo. But I'm a rich bastard in the game, so I'm fine. So this is point of discussion, but we will get into this later on. Then they have the matchmaker itself. The matchmaker is the key success factor of this game, simply because what this matchmaker does, it balances both teams out in tiers. So they put value on each tank and tries to balance out both teams. But not only that, they also balance out that if on one side there are 2 people in one group, you see these 2 people know each other, they're actually hooked up into a platoon, that there's another platoon on the other side as well. Because being in a platoon with 2 other players makes you so much stronger that the matchmaker has to make sure that they're actually on both sides. So again, if you're playing alone, it doesn't matter. You know, you're basically in a random battle and you have no idea how good the other players are. But if you hook up with two of your friends in TeamSpeak or Skype or whatever, and you basically talk each other about tactics and whom to shoot first, that's such a jump in skill set, basically what you apply into the game in strength, that the matchmaker has to make sure that they're actually on both sides. This is one of the reasons why they limit platoons, grouping of players, to 3. Because otherwise, I could invite 10 of my best friends who are really good players and just rape the field. Right? With 10 players, I could win every match. I can guarantee it. And this is the reason why they're limited to 3 and why the matchmaker balances that out on both sides. There are certain rules, you know, basically there's a matchmaking ±1. So if I'm tier 8, I can actually go into a tier 9 battle, or I could be lucky and go into a tier 7 battle. That it's called top tier. So I'm on the top, tier 8. The next lowest is tier 7, and the lowest is tier 6. Or I'm low tier, so I could be tier 8, and the next one is tier 9, and even tier 10. So, you know, this is basically luck, but it actually evens out over time. And you have to adapt your role, because if you're low tier, you're really weak, so you have to, you know, the other one could one-shot you, so you have to adapt your playstyle. But that's just details. There's certain things here which is interesting. If you have a matchmaker, and you're selling power items in your game, right? Power items is like what other people call pay to win. If you sell power items and the matchmaker balances out the power items on both sides, then you're fine. So the matchmaker is one of the reasons wargaming can actually sell power items. Because they make sure, most of the time, if there is a really cool whatever tag on one side, they try to make the same on the other side. And suddenly both teams are fine with this. Oh, he has this overkill Type 59 tank. Well, most of the time, there's another Type 59 on the other side. If you don't know what a Type 59 is, you know, you should read it up. You know, he's quitting already. So this basically is one of the secrets to success. In PvP-driven games, the matchmaker is your key item to success. You know, I just want to repeat that again. You know, a really good matchmaker in a PvP-driven game is your key to success and to good monetization. So let's go into the monetization items, right? This is like just a list of stuff you can monetize. Some of them are not as important for the revenue, some of them are. So the first thing, which is, you know, one of the stuff which kind of has fame, is called gold tanks. Gold tanks, you can buy a ready-fit, ready-to-go tank in the shop. You buy it, off you go. So some of them are tier 8, so you know, you're just starting at tier 1. You give them some money and you buy a tank for 50 euro, like this one. Where is it? Löwe, here, yeah, 50 euro, this thing. And then you can, off you go in tier 8 and you have like one of the coolest tanks in tier 8, right? Right? No. First thing, you're not skilled enough to actually drive this. So you will suck in this tank. Unless you actually grinded your first tier 8, you have no idea what you're going into, because the skill set of players in tier 8 is much better than yours. So you will lose. The second thing is that all their gold tanks are not the best tanks of that tier. So if you have within one tier, let's say tier 8, we have the worst and the best tanks, they are usually in the upper middle. And again, the second thing is that if you have a Löwe, there is usually a gold tank on the other side as well. Some of these gold tanks are really nice, some of them really suck, but you know, some of them are collector's items. So you know, they basically did this. But this is a one-off purchase. So I give them 50 euro and I buy this tank. And then I never buy something again. This is not really making their revenue. You know, if every of their 1 million pairs buys just one tank and that's it, and never again, they would actually fail in monetization. So this is not their main revenue driver. So next thing, you can convert experience to free XP. This is a hard concept to describe, because basically when you grind the tanks, the experience you grind are attached to the tank you're playing with. And you can spend it on the next tank in the tech tree, okay? This is a limitation, you have to walk through the tech tree. Now what this is, basically, you can pay them to unlock this experience from the tanks into a free pool. And this free pool you can spend everywhere. And that's very powerful, because you can basically jump nations or jump tiers. So imagine you have 1 million free XP, you can basically go to the British tanks and just bam, go all the way to tier 8 without grinding everything. So this is a very nice way to have a money sink. This is basically their major income from my measurement. Why I know this? Because I personally spent way beyond 3,000 euro on this game. And I have an Excel sheet where did I use that 3,000 euro in? Because it's part of my job to analyze a game even when you pay. Of course, I overdid a little bit because 3K is just fucking a lot of money, but on the other hand, I had a lot of fun. I'm playing this game since like 1.5 years. So, it's become my hobby. So, 3,000 is not a lot. I spend more on World of Warcraft, but this is a different thing. But generally, this is their money thing. This is their key to success, that basically players who want to progress really fast can unlock the experience and spend a lot of money. I spend like 500 to 600 gold per day unlocking experience. And if you add that up, that's like 15,000, which is like 60, 70 euro a month, plus side stuff. So it's 100 euro a month. That's 1,200 a year, times 1.5 years is half of the stuff I spend it upon. So there you go. This is their key money driver. The other one is convert gold to credits. So if I don't want to grind the credits to buy the really expensive tanks, what I do, I buy actually credits. So I buy gold, the premium currency, and just convert it to credits and buy the tank directly. I don't need to grind the currency until I can afford the tank. This is their second big money sink. So this is it. These are the two monetization drivers they have. But there's more. Remember 25% conversion rate? Let's check where that comes from. So more space. If you have 10 tanks in your garage and you want another one, you have to buy space. But this is really cheap. This is not their main stuff. Crew training. You can basically train your crew when you convert them and stuff. You do that like once a month. So this can't be their main sink either. So consumables. You can, once a battle, you can basically use these consumables, and they're premium consumables you can use, but you only use them like in extreme circumstances, so this can't be really their main money driver either. You spend maybe 100,000 credits per day on it, which is not really that much. But nevertheless, this is, I think it's like 10, 15% of the revenue comes from consumables. And there are a lot of them. Now, they have something called premium accounts. I was wondering why premium accounts, which is a kind of advanced pay subscription, right? Premium accounts basically means that you get 50% more experience and 50% more credits for every single battle. So if your major job in this game is to grind experience and credits, 50% more is a lot. And here you go. Whoever I ask, do you pay for World of Tanks? And no, I don't. No, really? Not even premium? Oh yeah, yes, I bought a year premium, but that's it. So most players who are paying, but not really paying a lot, are actually minimum buying premium. And this is the secret to 25% conversion rate. Because it's a so obvious advantage to accelerate your progress through the game, 50%, that it's a kind of no-brainer to have. It's like an inverted subscription. And now here comes the trick. Why 50%? Why don't give you like 100% or 200%? The reason is that 50% is just enough that it's cool to spend money upon, and it's just enough that someone else doesn't say, pay to win. It's the magic of 50%. You should think about it, right? If your colleague gets double the experience you get and double the money you get, you're just saying, cheater. You're cheating to play this game. But 50% is like, that's okay. It's magic. If you have this 25% only, it's not sexy enough to pay for, but 50% is. So this is the secret. The other secret, which is like a kind of pricing genius, look at this table. 1 week costs 1,250 gold. If a month has 4 weeks, basically you're paying nearly 5,000 a month, which would mean you're paying like 60,000 a year. But a year costs like less than half. So they have an exponential degrade in costs the more time you buy. So what many people do, they just like buy a week and just try it out and just see, hey, this is really cool, it's working. And at some point, when they get hooked to the game, they just go bam all the way up, depending on their wallet size. So, most of them buy like 6 or 12 months. Sometimes they actually give out free premium days for certain missions you do, but that's like a latest edition. They just did this end of the year, but before that, it was like this. So this is basically their secret to success of having 25% conversion rate. So if you have 25% payers in your game in World of Tanks, basically most of them, I guess like half, are just buying that. The other half are the users who are buying consumables, money, and maybe unlock XP as well. But on the other hand, once you spend money on premium and you're engaged in the game, you're ready to actually spend more, which is the secret of free-to-play. Once you spend, you're actually spending more. So this is a really cool way giving players a fair playing field, a fair monetization, and get them into the system, and suddenly you're spending like 150 euro a month like I do. So here's your answer to 25%. With that, they're a nearly record holder, I think, in client-based games. Client-based games, I haven't heard about a game which has more than 25%, to be honest. A client-based game, but that's cool. And this is the reason why I actually are adapting that system to a lot of my games. So a lot of our games are suddenly having premium accounts if they're progress-driven, simply because that system is so cool. And it works nice. It's a cool system. And actually, they didn't invent this system, right? There were premium games like 10 years ago which already had that, like, Dofus and so on. So, am I? Okay, I'm nearly on time. That's cool. That's actually a 45-minute talk, so I left out a lot, but sorry for that. They only gave me 20 minutes. I hope I gave you a really good glimpse about how the monetization works and the reason why they had 25% conversion and how you can actually calculate roughly their revenue. So, thank you.
Teut, that was great. Take
talk.
some balls to get up there and talk about someone else's game, especially with them sitting in the audience. Question for you. What are you doing tomorrow at 11 a.m.?
I'm participating in the Evil Game Design Challenge, where we're actually getting a really prominent game, and we have to turn it into an evil free-to-play game. Sorry for that.
And who's going to win?
That's a tough question. One of my contenders is here, and Ben will be here soon as well, and that's really hard. I don't know, because, I don't think I will, to be honest.
Oh, where's the confidence?
We'll see.
All right, Laurelyn, you going to win? Everyone's afraid of Ben Cousins.
Yes.
All right, let's open this up to questions.
Yes.
And we're going to just let questions go into the lunch time.
So here's Wargaming asking me a question about analyzing their game.
Hello, and thank you from our Minsk World of Tanks team.
Can I have a Type 59? Sorry.
I guess so. There should be someone from publisher in here. First of all, I want to say that this is the first presentation I see about our monetization that is pretty clear and close to the right stuff we are doing. Actually, we are very open to discussions about this system. We call it free to win and trying to promote it into the market. So you are welcome to contact anyone like me inside the company and discuss it later. Several comments on the presentation, if you allow. In fact, this PCU number you show, it's a Russian cluster only. We have decent numbers of people playing at the same time in China and Europe too.
Yeah, but different time zones, so it's difficult.
But these PCU numbers are coming from Russia cluster only. And the questions are, what do you think about lifetime influence on the monetization? Not just like a multiplier, but something else.
Okay, the question was, what is the influence on lifetime on monetization? If I would have the choice between lifetime and high monetization, I would always pick lifetime. Simply because someone staying in your game, enjoying it, he's big, he could turn into a paying user. Someone who pays and leaves doesn't. So, basically hooking players in your game, even if your monetization is low, but they're staying freaking long, always trumps good monetization. It's something, we have a really long lifetime in our games, really long, and we're really happy with that. In the engaging community, we can talk to them, we can play with them, tournaments, etc. I don't know how large your average lifetime is, but I guess that players who are like over 1,000 battles, they stay with World of Tanks at least a year. And that's, I think, key to success is lifetime.
Thank you. And one more question. What do you think about influence of fair play, fairness? I can make it more correctly. Can I ask it more correctly? What do you think about matching players not by the skills but by their tanks, for example?
Yeah, it's a good question. Theoretically, because they know the statistics of every player, how good he is in a given tier, they could match equally skilled players against each other. I don't know, to be honest, if this is a good idea. The tiering system you have is already a good matchmaking system. And skills vary by player, and you also know. I know, it's a tough question. If I always match someone against someone of the equal skill, the game never changes by progress and might get boring really soon. It's part of a cool game that at some matches, I'm tier 8, everybody else is tier 8, because my skill is much better, I actually killed all of them. Right? There's a special medal where you have 8 kills, MVP, like having over 10 or 13 kills, basically there's a special medal which contributes to you that you basically was the king of the match. I think this is part of the game that, the matchmaking actually varies a lot. But it has to do with the match length as well. If the match length is too long, like an hour, I would be a little bit more careful with that. But if the match length is short, you basically just, you died, next match. Basically, this is one thing I missed. It's one of the things World of Tanks actually, maybe you guys invented it. One of the coolest things World of Tanks does is that if you have 10 tanks and you play one, and you're 5 minutes into the battle and you get killed, you can leave the game immediately and take your next tank to a next match. There's never a waiting gap like in Counter-Strike or any other match, never. You just go from one match to the other. And that is like, you log in every day to get a double XP bonus with every tank you have, because you have 10, 20, 30 tanks, I have like 100. And if I play all of my tanks, it's like 5 hours. This is one of the coolest features I think you guys have in your game. But yeah, sorry.
Is anybody else amused that Teut is giving free consulting to Wargaming right now? Just real quick before we go to the next question, is David Ann in the room? David? Anywhere? I'm going to take that as a no. Feel free to keep asking Teut questions.
Yes.
Hi.
Sorry. He has the microphone first, so, sorry to skip you. So.
Hi, you mentioned that the game needs an RPPU of 25, 35 to survive. Could you go deeper into this?
Okay, if you have an RPPU of 25 and you have a conversion of 10%, you basically have an ARPU of 250. And 250 is barely enough to actually have a user acquisition plus profit on top. So a user costs like 150, and if you just make €1 profit per user, it's like really cutting it close, right? So if you have 35 suddenly and you buy users for 150, you have $2 profit, meaning you can spend $1 on maintenance, development, bandwidth and stuff, and you can actually save up for the next marketing thing. This is basically it. So the lower your conversion rate is, the higher that RPPU has to be. But this is actually why 25 is cutting it really close. Now you go.
My question is, why is it better to sell the premium accounts with virtual currency and not directly?
With what, please?
The premium accounts,
yeah.
You can buy them with the currency, the game currency.
Actually, you can buy them with both. They basically what Wargaming does is that you can either buy them with gold or you can buy them direct like here.
Okay, directly.
So it's basically both. They have a shop which sells premium and direct items. So you can buy tanks for money or for in-game currency in the game itself.
Okay.
This is one thing I actually don't recommend, but it's just my personal view on free-to-play. Because when you sell items for real money in the shop, you never get away the real monetary value of that item in the head of the player. You never get rid of it. Everybody says, it's a €50 tank. Now, if you only would sell it for gold in the game itself, it never has a real money value, meaning that you never have a bad conscience spending money upon it. But this is just my monetization economy psychological guy talking out of me. Yeah. But for them it works, so
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
Thank you, my name is Tsiu. I used to play League of Legends and tanks, World of Tanks. I've tried, just I'm not letting into that. I was thinking about if you allow some players to be like grocers, like to carry some items, consumables and stuff like that in the game. So when you let them just carry the stuff, so if they can make some profit on their own like that, so you can just make give them motivation to make more money and
they do that. They have a quest system inside, basically mission system, and when you fulfill that missions, you actually get premium items in return as a kind of preview. So if you don't want that premium consumable to be paid for, there are certain missions, if you fulfill them, you get like 10 or 15 of them for free. So they have that system in there. Basically, it's like what we call fair play. It's a question I didn't answer for Wargaming. What do you think about pay to win? My hypothesis is simply, good free-to-play games don't have pay to win. Because otherwise, they wouldn't be good free-to-play games and wouldn't be successful. You can get away with pay to win if you have something like a matchmaker, or like both people have pay to win on both sides, or if you let people grind for premium currency in the game itself, so they can actually buy the premium stuff without paying real money. So there are ways around this, and I actually did a talk on GDC Europe about that. But it's, you know, there are ways in free-to-play around it, and best practices are out there. You know, one warning though: don't take League of Legends as a role model for good free-to-play monetization. It's a very, very special case which just works for them. I would be really careful copying that system. This is just my.
Why do you think
advice.
it's a special case?
It's a very special case because usually your formula you have is like number of users times conversion rate times RPPU, and they scale up by users. So they have a really low conversion rate. Actually, their conversion rate is so low, I would be ashamed actually saying it. For a client-based game, client-based games have way beyond 10%. Like everything between 10 and 25%. League of Legends is way below 10%. So they don't have a lot of players paying. But from 50 million players every month, their conversion rate, they still have millions of players paying, and they make like $1 billion a year. But you know, they scale by users. They don't scale by conversion rate. So it's a very specific version. If I would change the monetization of League of Legends, I could double the revenue. Easy. Sorry.
I'm one of the 10%.
Under 10%.
So much money on League of Legends.
Okay. So, any more questions? Well, then enjoy lunchtime. I think it's lunchtime now.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you
you.
can see Teut tomorrow in the Evil Game Design Challenge, where he'll be taking on Laurelyn McWilliams and Ben Cousins.